Order at 12:05. I'd like to welcome everyone here. Thank you all for being here. We are in a different location today, so I'm happy everyone found it and was able to be here on time, and we look forward to hearing from the people who we have in our audience. We do have a good agenda today, so we do have several things to discuss and some items to vote on, and so we're going to go ahead and get started because I do want to respect people's times. Do we have a land acknowledgement or no? If we don't, that's perfectly fine. Okay, let's do our land acknowledgement that we do. Metro Art stands and holds space on the unceded and sovereign lands of the Cherokee, East, Ute, and Shawnee peoples who have stewarded for generations. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more than generations that can be counted. We acknowledge we are all standing on ancestral lands, and we honor the thousands of enslaved African peoples whose lives were physically and spiritually stolen. We pay respects to elders past and present. Metro Arts invites you to join in our commitment to knowing our Native communities in more meaningful ways in alignment with our restorative arts practice. All right, now we will move on to our public comment. As always, just know that the public is encouraged and invited to attend commission meetings and may make comments in person during the designated time on the agenda. As a reminder, the public comment period is limited to 20 minutes total. Comments are limited to 2 minutes per person. Persons wishing to provide comment on matters that are germane to items on the agenda must sign up prior to the beginning of the meeting on the sign-up sheet provided at the meeting. The opportunity to provide public comment is offered on a first-come, first-served basis. At all meetings, the commissioner chairing the proceedings shall have the authority to limit the number of persons allowed to speak on any issue and to manage or limit such speakers' time. And so, Vivian, do we have anyone on the list today?
Yes, we have 9 people.
Okay, if you can call the first one up.
So if we want to go ahead and get started, our first up is Councilwoman Joy Stiles. And can you make sure the mics and stuff, that other mic is on?
Thank you.
I was going to say tap that right one.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Chair, for acknowledging me, Commissioners, for your service. In addition to being a councilwoman, I'm also the chair of our soon-to-be Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Committee. So some of you have probably read today's article in the Nashville Banner in regards to the meeting on Monday. So I just wanted to give a little context and share how we got here. Before I read the email that I originally sent on Monday, I've spent a lot of time fighting for Metro Arts, for commissioners, for artists, to be sure that we do the right thing as council members, making sure that Metro does the right thing. We voted last year to give an additional $2 million specifically to this department because you've been underfunded for over 20 years. And you all have been making it work, but it's not right. So with that, for me, everything that I do is about making sure we are being good to constituents and we're being good to artists. And with that in mind, on Monday morning, I received a phone call from a constituent to tell me at 7 a.m. they had gotten an alert from the Metro IT system saying that Monday's meeting for the grants committee was happening at 12:30. It concerned them that they got their alert late. I thought it was concerning as well because we're trying to rebuild trust right now. We are trying to get people that haven't been paid to believe in us and trust that we're going to do the right thing moving forward. And the right thing moving forward is if we are giving the appearance of impropriety, we fix it. So I did ask, I will finish. I did ask that the commissioner, who is chair of the grants committee, I did give Mr. Jester a call and ask if he would cancel the meeting, if he will not cancel but reschedule, so that constituents felt better about timing. We did discover in this process there's an IT malfunction. We have a manual process that's taking place. You all submitted an agenda at the end of the day on Friday. that got overlooked, but it was posted, and the manual override happened at 7. I
You may
really
fin-
want
no,
to finish,
You can finish.
please.
I'm just going
Okay.
to allow you to finish because we do have the rules, and so because your time expired, I do want to say it on the record. You may finish.
Thank you very much, Chair. So with that being said, when I found that out, having spoken with Mr. Jester and originally asking how we got here, and he shared he had sent it in, I found out from IT that they didn't touch it until 7 a.m. on Monday. It did feel unfair. I do think that the end of the day on a Friday for a Monday meeting also doesn't work, but we're looking at changing some policies for boards and commissions as council members, so that's probably something that we're going to fix as a policy. With that being said, I had multiple conversations, the chair with Mr. Jester, to ask him to move this meeting because it made constituents uncomfortable, and I want to rebuild trust. At no time was it acrimonious when I hang up the phone did I feel that we had a negative exchange. And the email that I received in response from Mr. Jester was definitely contrary to that. And to my colleagues, again, we have been working really hard, and I want to thank each and every one of you. We have been rebuilding this commission. I'm happy with the chair. I'm happy with the chair of the Budget Committee. We are moving in a good direction. And Mr. Jester, as I said to you on the phone on Monday, I don't have any acrimony towards you. I am working for constituents and for transparency because it's been a hot mess in here. And I still believe that when this is all over, we will be better for it, that we will have policies in place, we will have a system for grants to be done efficiently, and they will be done timely, and there will be trust between government and constituents, because that's what's lacking right now. But back and forths and negativity, I don't want to engage in that. I just want to make things better. And that's been my intention from the beginning. So I am hopeful moving forward, having additional conversations. Mr. Jester, thank you for asking to have coffee. I would love to do that so that we can get things squared away and that we can get back to the work that we need to do. There is legislation coming to address processes and policies as it pertains to Metro Arts and other boards and commissions, but there's also some legislation coming that is in regards to this commission, so we can get some things cleared up. And I'm happy to discuss when they are posted with any of you that legislation. I really do appreciate your time and your efforts and your commitments. And Ms. Lefkowitz, you were the previous chair. You did a wonderful job. I want you to know that. Thank you for your time. Thank you all for your time. I know there are other council members that are here to speak, but I just want greatness. I love this department. It does wonderful work. And it's time for us to just be about helping people make art and make communities greater and better, because that's what art does. Art's meant to bring us together. So I believe that we will move beyond this. And thank you very much, Chair, for giving me the extension in time to be able to speak. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I did very much want to share this because this is one thought. My email said, good morning. It has come to my attention that there has not been adequate notice for today's meeting for the Arts Commission. Apparently, the agenda was posted late Friday afternoon, but the agenda alert only went out this morning at 7 a.m., which is not surprising since our Metro staff does not work on the weekends. For those watching this situation closely, this gives the appearance of impropriety. Given the amount of ongoing strife with the Thrive Grant process, I believe it would behoove all involved to reschedule this meeting for a later date. We are trying to build trust with the public, and this is not the proper way to do it. Additionally, in speaking with the current executive director, and yes, we do still have one, this agenda was not shared with him and he's not in support. He has tried on numerous occasions in the last 3 weeks to return to the office. However, your department, and is referring to Metro Legal, has refused his doctor's approval. With both of these concerns, I will again request that today's meeting be moved to a later date. And I sent this email to Director Dietz and Laura Fox, the commissioners that serve on the Grants Committee, and to council members. So there was transparency with everyone why I was asking for this meeting change. That is the tone that it was delivered in. I do have several concerns regarding internal strife. I am still very hopeful that we get to the other side of this. I do think the overreach of finance and Metro Legal has been substantial. And when we can get that underway, we will be able to do a lot more and you guys will be able to do your jobs. because you are hindered right now, and I'm sorry for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And just a reminder, we will be adhering to the 2 minutes. Deference was given and a little leeway was given to Councilwoman Stiles because of the article that came out. And so I just want to make sure that we do and are going to adhere to the 2 minutes. So thank you. Vivian, we can continue.
Okay, the next person I have is Councilperson Jacob Cupin. Cupin. And I'll let you know when your time starts. And then I'll also let you know when you're at 1 minute.
Thank you. I'll try to speak under 2 minutes to make up for
Times.
that. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I'm Councilperson Jacob Cupin for District 19, and I want to express my deep appreciation for all the hard work this commission does. It has not been an easy road, and really just appreciate everything you guys are doing to get these artists paid and kind of get us on the right track. We've made a lot of progress, but there is still quite a bit of work to do. I was concerned to see an agenda go out on Friday for a Monday meeting, even if it was compliant with the 48 hours, or if it wasn't. Regardless, as my colleague said, we're trying to build trust with the community. We're trying to show that we're working with the artists and with the public. And so I would encourage, longer lead times to make sure that people have time to understand the agenda and think about if they want to come speak or engage. And I know there's a lot of moving parts, a lot going on, but I would appreciate, looking at that. And I recognize that there have been a number of emails sent throughout this whole process from multiple different parties. And I really hope that we can look forward and not backward and kind of be done with these emails going back and forth. I think that we're all at a place where we want to fund artists. We want to work together on solutions. And I think that every time another email goes out, it kind of stirs up more challenges. So my hope is we can kind of move forward from that and work together towards solutions. Looking at this agenda, I know Director Singh's employment keeps coming up. I don't see that on this agenda. I don't feel qualified to make a decision on whether he should remain or whether he should be let go. And I know there's a lot of discussion around that, but I would wonder when that is going to come to fruition.
30 seconds.
It's important to make a decision one way or another, whether he's staying or not staying, so that we can, move forward from that chapter and continue working on healing and getting these artists paid. But at the end of the day, we're Music City. We're the Athens of the South. We need to protect the artists. We need to protect equity. We need to keep Thrive grants going forward so that these small arts organizations can be funded. And we're here to support y'all in your efforts and support the artists and theirs. And again, really appreciate all that you guys are doing. Thank you so much.
All right. And next we have Alan Fay. And your time starts now.
Hi, I'm Alan. I'm an arts administrator and percussionist from District 16. I really appreciate the commissioner's willingness to serve, especially since many of you joined the commission after knowing about some of the issues that existed in this government body. I want to encourage you to reach out to past employees who were here when Thrive was started. I don't know all the specifics because I wasn't involved in 2014, but I understand it was set up through a loophole of sorts through procurement, partially because it was a small amount. Maybe that was legal, maybe not. I'm not that expert. But if the Metro Arts bylaws state specifically that you only fund organizations, and we can no longer fund Thrive because it no longer slides under the radar of Metro Finance, then maybe change the bylaws to include providing grants to individual artists. I know changing bylaws is often complicated in how changes can be made, but you can do it. Seriously, if Thrive was not technically legal all this time, or maybe only not legal now because of the new changes, then I look forward to this body changing or creating a new system, whatever is needed to keep funding individual artists. And I know that work will come with unwavering support of and work from Metro Council members, including those here today. I also want to publicly voice my support for the staff of Metro Arts. They've been working hard to serve the individual artists and organizations with a complicated process that they didn't create, a grant process that was poorly communicated and executed by their leadership, and with an executive director who had ignored or bullied his staff for months prior to going on what he has said was medical leave, all of which has been visible in the public space. I honestly, truly hope he's able to get the rest and care he needs during his leave. But until he returns, I need this body to serve the staff and the arts community by empowering Metro Arts staff to make decisions to serve the city of Nashville. That empowerment also means you'll support them and back them up when members of the community question their decisions because they didn't have leadership to guide them in their work or to communicate with their community. Thank you so much. I wish I could stay, but this is my third meeting this week.
Thank you, Alan. Our next is Mr. Drew Ogle. Hope I said that right.
Yep, you got it.
And your time starts now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Drew Ogle with Nashville Repertory Theater. This is a picture of the final moments of the musical The Color Purple. And it's the show that we just closed down at TPAC this past weekend. This show employed 17 actors, 7 musicians, a director, a choreographer, and a musical director and a conductor. And in addition to those artists who rehearsed and performed the show, it took a lot of artists to create the show, including a scenic painter, a set designer, a lighting designer, a costume designer, and a props artisan, a sound designer. It took 2 carpenters to build the set, it took 9 fabric artists to build the costumes, and it took 9 technical artists to actually run each show. In total, The Color Purple created 54 paying jobs, professional, high-level paying jobs for artists. And we performed the show at TPAC.
1 minute.
So in addition to employing 54 artists directly, we indirectly employed ushers, box office, concession, and so on and so forth. Over the course of 2 weekends, 4,000 people saw the show. And I know from talking to them that they ate in our downtown restaurants and parked, and some even stayed in hotels. I say all this to say thank you. This project was funded by our Metro Arts grant. Your dollars went directly into the hands of Nashville artists. When things get chaotic and crazy, and as Councilwoman Stiles says, a hot mess, I hope it helps to remind you that what you do is really important. It really has an impact that just ripples out through our city. So thank you so much for doing that.
All right. And next we have Miss Lydia Youssef. Time starts now.
Between the 1850s to the 1960s, white people wanted to extract taxes from black people, but did not want black people to participate in deciding how those taxes would be dispersed. So white people created a literacy test to disenfranchise black people from being eligible to vote. They made it procedural and legal to deny black people the right to vote. In the post-Civil War era, when black people moved to the South and into the North and West, white people wanted to extract their labor and wealth, but did not want to live beside black people and still don't. So white-owned banks redlined neighborhoods and decided not to give loans to black people on the basis that it would be too risky. They made it procedure and good practice not to give loans to black people. In the 1850s and 60s, black people demanded that if they were to pay taxes, their schools must be equipped and well-resourced as white public schools. This led to the famous image of white moms and dads, average people, spitting on black children as they integrated schools. White people bombed Hattie Cotton Elementary School in Nashville because of integration. White people have always had insane reactions to equality. White people said it's the Constitution because separate but not equal is the law. And now white people privatized education so that they don't have to go to school with black children. They created voucher programs to rob public funds from white-run private schools and funnel them into white-run private schools. So it does not surprise me that it's 2024 in Nashville, and when BIPOC demand equitable funding distribution with our taxes, the solution that Metro Arts Grant Manager presents is to privatize and make funds inaccessible and not accountable to the public. This is a history of white supremacy. We create more, or y'all create more barriers and excuses so that BIPOC cannot get the money we give y'all. So let me be clear, since the white commissioners are usually confused. To privatize Thrive, to privatize public funds, is to create an unnecessary barrier and to detract from our ability to hold institutions accountable for public funds.
Thank you.
All right. Next we have Miss Christine Hall. And your time starts now.
Hello. First, appreciation. Yes, for each one of you, even the ones I disagree with. I am thankful for everyone representing their voice here and for the people who are volunteering to represent the voices they feel move them to speak, to serve on such a commission. I am moved to speak for artists, for people who benefit from the arts, for that connection that it gives to us. I served on the grants editing panel. I myself have never applied for Metro Arts funding, but I've witnessed what it's done for our community. I witnessed what it does for artists. I want to clarify that when we hear about Thrive being threatened, we're not just talking about a program named Thrive. We're talking about that means to give the funding direct to artists. No intermediary. This is public funds. They need to be accessible for the artists on the ground doing the work. The ones who I have heard other artists come and speak to this commission do not need to be managed. The proof is there in front of you. It's demonstrable. They serve the community. They create community. The effects are lasting, and the growth we can't even imagine. But it makes the character of our city. It makes what attracts people to come here, to stay here, to enjoy it here. It's the most important thing, that those dollars get to the artists. And we're not just talking about negligible amounts or, I've got to tell you, I was part of a Thrive program once a while ago, and it paid a fair rate. There was time? So that fair rate that's available to artists, through that means, that's what you've got to preserve accessibly. Thank you.
All right. Ashley, don't get me. Ashley Bachelor? Badge holder? Elder, yes. Sorry. Your time starts now.
Hi, everyone. I'm really only giving public comments today because I've had a few people ask me about the public comments that I gave at the Metro Council meeting earlier this week. So the third recommendation that was in our Title VI report is that the Arts Commission should have its funding model approved by the Metro Council to ensure that future allocations of taxpayer funds are equitably distributed. We've stated this recommendation in several places and in several conversations, including with commissioners, so it wasn't something new that we were saying out of the blue this week. And so this recommendation is based on two things, the Metro Code and efforts to prevent a repeat of what we've all gone through this past year. The Metro Code, Section 2112040, Section H, states that the Arts Commission will establish the criteria for awarding funds, which the Metro Council will approve by resolution. What we confirmed is that this hasn't been done since 2001. A resolution approved by the council on September 18th, 2001 includes the Arts Commission's rules and regulations, which include very broad criteria for funding. According to what we were told by Metro Legal during our investigation, these rules and regulations from 2001 are what's on the books today for the commission. So our recommendation has been that the Arts Commission should update this language or update these rules and regs to include language about equity benchmarks, goals, and funding formulas. And updating this and following this section of the code is also just worth doing to help prevent future conflicts like what we've had this year. I'll say I'm glad that all parties have agreed to participate in a voluntary conciliation process regarding the issues brought up by the Title VI report. And a big part of voluntary conciliation is a focus on processes that can correct what has gone wrong in the past and prevent harm and more conflict in the future. And so I'm always happy to talk about our recommendations, the details in our report, and what we've learned along the way with anybody. And if you don't have my contact information, just ask for it. Thank you.
All right, now we have Nicole Williams. And your time starts now.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I want to talk about public notice for public meetings. So it seems like there has been a lot of confusion with what is adequate public notice of the meeting and then the agenda, because those are two separate things, and I know the meetings are usually noticed before the agendas come out. I want to thank Commissioner Beverly Watts for always making it a point. I think her agendas are out like a week before the meetings, that is one way to avoid the confusion. Just give yourself a big old buffer. I do think that based on people I've talked to on other boards and commissions or who staff other boards and commissions, there's been conflicting guidance from Metro Legal about what constitutes adequate public notice and how to ensure that the public are adequately noticed of your meeting and what you will be discussing. I understand that there are a lot of factors that go into that. But again, I think you would all do yourselves well to provide a buffer. I also have to say I was very disappointed on yesterday to hear repeated trivialization of the importance of public notice, and in an email from one commissioner to say, this is an email that not many people get. Well, you don't know how many people get the email. I'm not trying to stop the work that the commission is doing. I think you're doing great work and you're doing important work. What I'm trying to do is make sure that everything that you do is above board so that there's no chance that it gets challenged. Like, that shouldn't be a contentious issue. And I, as a person bringing that up, should not face animosity from people who have the power to address this issue themselves. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank those who make sure to give themselves a buffer, and just leave you all with that.
All right, next we have Daniel Jones. All right, and your time starts now.
Hello, everyone. I am an artist and an administrator here. I work with Kindling Arts and Oz Arts Nashville, and I have a great pleasure of serving a wide swath of our artistic community. I wanted to start just with some gratitude for yesterday's meeting. I think it was the first meeting in a long time where I felt like it was run in a way that allowed all the voices to be heard, moved things forward, there was professionalism, and I'm really grateful for the sense of brainstorming that was allowed to occur. This idea that we have some problems, we have to put some things out there, and we have to find some solutions to them. And so one of the things that I wanted to respond to was the grants timeline for FY25, which I'm a little confused about where we're at with it, but I know that there's a lot of questions about how to move forward with that. I have a little bit of concern about the idea of kicking the can down the road too far. We experienced this year, especially for small organizations, how tough a little pinch can be, where we're going down the road, and suddenly it's December and we still don't have funds. Just to give that context, a lot of these folks that have larger organizations than Kindling, for example, have overhead costs, they have staff, they have programs that they're managing year round, and those folks need that money in order for their programming to make sense from July till X, right? And so while I'm sensitive and want to be sympathetic to the idea that we don't want to release a bunch of award notices or something that gets more confusion, which please don't, I do want to kind of advocate that we try to keep that towards July, August at the latest territory, just because there will be this kind of black hole of programming that happens between July 1st and whenever that award comes out. I also run a festival that happens in July, so that's a little weird, but it'll be what it'll be.
Time.
That was it? All right, well, giddy up. Thank you all.
All right, Madam Chair, that concludes our public comment for today.
All right, thank you so much, Vivian. And thank you to all of our, to all the public who made comments. It was noted, as always, we hear you, we take it in, and we appreciate you being here. Next, we'll go to the approval of February and March meetings, and so minutes. So you have both before you, and so we'll do February 1st.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
That February, I already know one correction. It's at the top. It's agenda, and it should say minutes. So I already know that.
Oh, no, you're fine.
So-
You're fine.
But that will be fixed.
Are there any other changes or edits to the minutes? If there are no changes, can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Can we get individual motions?
Pardon?
Can we get, are we just doing one, right?
We're just
This
doing-
is February.
This is February.
Yeah.
So moved for February 15 minutes.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions? All right, the minutes are passed. Now let's move on to our March minutes. Are there any changes or edits? If there are no changes or edits, I will entertain a motion to approve the March minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye. All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right, the minutes, March 28th minutes are approved. All right, now we're turning over to Commissioner West for the Public Art Committee. Oh, no. Please forgive me. We have an artist spotlight. Ms. Nicole Robinson, please forgive me.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Leslie Owens, Public Art Collections Manager. Chuck Beard would normally be here today, introducing our featured artist, but today it is my pleasure. Some of you may already know Nicole Robinson. She's also known as the Story Lady. Nicole is an educator, writer, and storyteller who has spent over a decade working in community development and trauma-informed care, focusing on the artistic practice of storytelling. Here in Nashville, she worked with youth in an after-school setting before joining the Metro Arts team in 2019 as the Restorative Arts Coordinator, and then later as the Youth Program Specialist. Nicole transitioned from Metro Arts a few years ago, but has stayed connected to this important work. She is currently working on a program called Story Beats and is an FY24 Thrive awardee. Please give a warm welcome to Nicole Robinson.
Good afternoon. Usually I have a little buggy with like props and costumes, and we are going minimalist, which is not my usual. And so it's such a pleasure to be here this afternoon with you all. Let me cue up. Oh, this is what always happens. Okay, there we go. I had it set and then the wrong. All right. So I want to give you sort of a glimpse into a Story Beat session. I'm so thankful to be serving the Percy Priest neighborhood, specifically the Smith Springs area, District 29. I sort of see it as almost like, for lack of a better word, sort of an arts desert. We're about 15 minutes from Southeast Community Center and 15 minutes from Hermitage Public Library. And so just being within that community, living and working, again and again came this idea of we need more performing arts and more literary arts. And we have to go to Hermitage or Southeast. And so this was sort of a response to it, combining my passion with sort of what I was hearing for community need. So, welcome to, we sound checked too, Ann Leslie. We sure did. Oh my goodness. We sure did. Even the IT over there knows we did. Okay, now we're connected. All my worst nightmares is coming true right now, like literally. Yep. That's what always happens. Okay, so hopefully you can hear that. So welcome everybody to kind of like a tidbit of what a story beat session would be. I always start out this way. I have people from 2 years old to 72 years old. That was my favorite because she even got her groove on and it was really cute. So I just want to say embrace your inner child, your inner imagination, and journey with me to Smith Springs neighborhood. Maybe we're in a community center or in the elementary school. Go there in your mind and let's go. Hey everybody, welcome to Story Beats. We're gonna have some fun. Just you wait and see. Explore 3 stories, 1, 2, 3. First we'll read a story written by an author with words and pictures and pages to turn. Then we'll hear a story told by a teller. Imagination explosion! Help me put it together. Then we'll write a story. Our minds will combine. Perform it on the stage in a short amount of time. Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Okay, so that key that you came in with through the door, can you take that out of your pocket? Take that key. You know the key that was in your pocket? Take it out. Everybody take it out. I found mine. All right, are you ready? Got it. Oh, Ellen, you came in with the key. Oh. All right, are we ready to unlock our minds? Unlock our minds. Unleash your hearts. All right, let's start. All right, give yourselves 3 hand claps. Give yourselves 3 more hand claps. Oh, and what about a heart hug? Come on. A little heart hug? Okay. And maybe a little hug. Just a little hug and a teensy weensy hug. Oh, great job, storytellers. So we start with the read story, then a told story that has a framework and that has been imagined, and then a community-driven story where we all combine our imaginations together and create something new. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is one of those told stories, but it'll have a special element because it's grown along the way, specifically with the Smith Springs elementary students. And so here it is. Do you see the bat? Do you see the bat? You see the bat. Now the bat saw some berries on a tree, and the bat ate those berries, and it went deep inside his belly, and he became Super Bat. Thank you, said the bat to the berries, and Super Bat flew around the whole town, and he went up, and he went down, and when he used every good thing that the berries could give him, plip plop, drip drop, plip plop, drip drop, what was left of the berries fell to the ground. And it just so happened that on the ground there was soil. And that soil happened to be hugging a seed. Thank you, bat, for what was left of the berries. And every morning, that little seed saw the sun. And every so often, the rain came down. And there just happened to be, oh, you can't hear them. I need your help. So there just happened to be an earthworm. Oh, now I can hear them. An earthworm family making their way through the soil, aerating it, and that seed became a sprout. And that sprout became a vine. And that vine vine had a flower, and that flower became a fruit. What fruit was it? What fruit was growing on the vine? Oh, what was it? A berry? Okay, what else? A peach. Oh, a peach was growing on the vine. Anything else? An apple? What was growing on the vine? Anything else? Berries. Peach, berry, vine. My school friends said pumpkins, strawberries, chocolate. Chocolate on the vine. I want that vine now. So there were some strawberries. I'm going to go with that one because that's what the kids loved as well. There were some strawberries, but there was a big strawberry, the most gigantic, magnificent strawberry you've ever seen. And it just so happened. Thank you, Vine, for being my home. And that super strawberry lying aside the road was plucked. By whom? Who plucked the strawberries? That's Miss Springs Elementary. I performed this 5 times, and they loved a particular gym teacher. And he plucked the strawberry, but who in here? Andy did a pumpkin and a gourd. But who in here is going to pluck the strawberry? Macy. Macy! Oh, I always say to my students, if you have to point, turn that finger back on yourself. So Miss Leah plucked the strawberry. And how did Miss Leah walk to the strawberry? Did she walk? Did she trollo? Did she skip? Did she do a little dance? What did Miss Leah do?
Skip. Yeah, she skipped.
She skipped. Come on, Miss Leah. She skipped and she plucked the world's largest. You're not skipping, Miss Leah. Skip. Oh, she plucked it and she brought it back home. Oh, and she's giving everybody a little piece. She didn't want to bring it home and make it a smoothie. She didn't want to chop and dice it. She's just giving a little bit. And everybody said, thank you, Miss Leah. As you were eating that strawberry, I saw you eating it. Did you feel strengthened? Did you feel like you became a super person?
Yes.
You did. And that's what's so important about gratitude and saying thank you along our way and along our journey is that it strengthens us and that it gives us this unique superpower to build and grow and do amazing things. Thank you all for being such an amazing audience this morning. I look forward to the story that we're going to create together.
Thank you so much. Nicole, you got me doing my exercise for today. So thank you for that. All right, so now we will move on to Commissioner West with the Public Art Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Love. You're a hard act to follow. So for Public Art Committee, we met last week, and we're bringing to you all today 3 action items. But first, I'd like to acknowledge 2 new commissioners that are on PAC now. It's Commissioner Phillips and Commissioner Watts. So thank you both. Is Commissioner Phillips? She's not here. But thank you both for serving. We're looking forward to having you. So moving into the number one, Old Hickory Community Center design concept. I know this has been brought to you all before as far as background, but we wanted to come together about some budget increase in the artwork design today for these. So Jessica, can I turn it over to you to give details?
Sure. Thank you, Nicole. Can you come to every commission meeting?
Really?
And yes, want to echo my thanks to our two new commissioners who've joined. So Commissioner Watts, you're here today. Thank you. So this was approved at the February Public Art Committee meeting, and so PAC is now bringing it to commission for approval. This is part of our design concept process. So when a design is completed, we bring it to PAC. Well, staff reviews it, it goes to PAC, and then we bring it to commission. And just so that you all have some background, for example, the design proposal was brought to staff, and we sent it back and asked for a little more work to be done, a little more alignment to be done with the community engagement process before we brought it to PAC. So there's just several stages to this process. But now PAC is ready to bring it to commission. It's called Wings of Time. It's by the artist Gordon Huther. So this is from his statement, which you all can read. Bordered by the Cumberland River and the Old Hickory Lake to the east, Old Hickory is home to many great blue heron colonies, the largest and most familiar of the herons of Tennessee. Steeped in folklore and symbolism, the great blue heron represents self-determination and self-reliance. According to North American Native tradition, they also represent an ability to progress and evolve. So this is for a new construction in Old Hickory, a new community center. They haven't broken ground yet, but this will be, as you can see, in this atrium space that has clerestory windows. There'll be a lot of natural light. Next slide. And the artist Gordon Huther has chosen laser-cut acrylic herons that are made from a dichroic film. And so just to give you an example, dichroic film, even in cloudy days, has this kind of incredible, magical, reflective quality. So in a space with this much natural light, it's going to be pretty magical. So laser-cut acrylic herons made from dichroic film will be suspended at varying heights from the ceiling. Each heron is 4 feet in height with a 6 feet wingspan, close to the actual size of the great blue heron. The heron sculptures will be accented with suspended crystals. The design is meant to maximize the natural light to create a dazzling array of colors, swaying gently with the movement of the air. And one thing he wanted to do was really think about how many children will be utilizing the space and make it a magical space for children. So Wings of Time, this is again from his statement, is a metaphor for the history, development, and community of Old Hickory, representing the beauty of the area today. Now home to a diverse population, Old Hickory remains well known for its history and charm. Building on the themes of nature and history, I focused on the heron in flight, spreading its wings and suspended above, representing a unified city and the importance of inclusion. The heron's wings encompass all those beneath its flight.
Oh, I guess I need to be on the microphone. And so usually questions and discussions come after the motion, which is perfectly fine. But I want to, this is a motion from the committee, a recommendation from the committee, or correct? Okay, if you can read the motion, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Chair Love. We call for a motion. Public Art Committee recommends approval of Gordon Huther's artwork for design for Wings of Time at the Old Hickory Community Center. Motion is to approve Gordon Huther's artwork design for Wings of Time at the Old Hickory Community Center. I'd like to open it up for questions.
Wait, do we have a second on that?
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Watts, since you're on the committee, you like to second that?
Yes, I second that.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
are there any questions about the project?
I'm just curious, when does it open, the community center?
I don't have the exact date. They haven't broken ground yet, so it will be a minute.
I would just like to say that as Old Hickory is my home and this community center will be less than a mile from my house, that's beautiful, and thank you.
Are there any other questions? Are you ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the Bordeaux Gateway Project Artist Budget.
So this project is part of the past administration's participatory budget funding. So when we had this come to PAC, we knew that the $185,000 of the artist budget would not quite be enough. We knew that coming into this. So this has been an ongoing conversation with PAC. Where this is located, and Jessica, I'll ask you to speak to this in just a minute, but where this is located, we're working with NDOT, TDOT, the mayor's office, and there's a lot of infrastructure, and I think this is a good project to kind of have an example of how you got to be a little flexible with public art. We will run into things, and so this is something that we knew with the participatory budget from the mayor's office that we would need to add something to this. So we all discussed this at PAC and had a good, I think, deliberation about it, and I came out of it feeling really good. The semifinalists are great, and we just like to move forward with it. And Jessica, do you have anything to add?
No, just to kind of bring people into the process. The 4 semifinalists are Amari Booker and Stephen Hutchins, Shabazz Larkin, Prado Studio, and James Threlkill. And at some point in the design process, once it's gone through an NDOT and TDOT review, it will be open for community review. So we hope everyone here will keep an eye out for that.
Thank you, Jessica. This is the corner, if you all are familiar with Bordeaux, you can see how this is going to be logistically a really good collaboration, but it is going to take a bit more. So just everybody have a look at that.
All right, we can get the motion on the screen.
I'd like to call for a motion. Public Art Committee recommends approval of an increase of the Bordeaux Gateway Project artist budget from $185,000 to $300,000. Can I get a motion?
Oh, you made the motion, and so is there a
Thank you. So
second?
is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Watts. Is there discussion on this?
I'm just curious, is it the entire kind of triangle?
It's the entire triangle, and on our site visit with our NDOT, TDOT reps, you'll notice there's an elevation, a gradation shift. There's drainage ditches, and then there's roadway concerns, and there's an elaborate, extensive TDOT, NDOT review process. But yeah, we're trying to work with the whole triangle.
Yeah, I love the site.
Yeah.
I'll pass it along.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Are you ready for the vote? All those in favor of the motion, aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Thank you so much. The last one is the Celestial Falls interior artwork.
This project is at the, excuse me, Donaldson Library. And so you all received packets with all of this. We went through this at PAC, and we are asking for an increase in the budget due to several things. Prices have increased for materials. We are also, Amber Lely, the artist, who's fantastic, she's working with all local artisans. She's kept everything in Tennessee, in Nashville. But as we worked through the project, she was seeing cost come up a bit. So Jessica, do you want to speak to kind of how that came about? I've got all my notes, but since you're intimately, yeah.
Sure. So in this bottom image here, you can see the rendering of Celestial Falls by artist Amber Lely. I'm very happy to announce that that project finished install last week, and we are finishing the exterior install for Wow House, the top slide, tomorrow morning. So it's nice to actually see some things get wrapped up. If you want to go to our next slide, this is, wow, this is really purple and green. So actually, those are blue. So I'm not sure what happened. It's not green squiggles, it's blue waves. Anyway, it's a beautiful, really impressive project. And a couple of things have happened, which I'm sure a lot of artists in the room can speak to. I can speak to as an artist as well, and we're definitely experiencing this in public art, is especially since 2020, we've seen an increase in cost. For production, we've seen an increase in material. We've seen an increase in labor cost. Also, as the price of living in Nashville increases, we've also seen less available artisans, less available fabricators, especially for smaller projects. Because of the increased cost of doing business in Nashville, they need to kind of prioritize larger projects. So the artist had to make a pretty substantial shift from what she had estimated to what actually turned out, which in large part was these flowers. That the painter who was going to paint them could no longer do that in Nashville due to facility issues. So she decided to aluminum gild them. And what's pretty exciting, if you want to go to the next, I can't remember what the, yeah. What's pretty exciting about this is that she retained a master gilder who then trained a group of local artists and makers, installers in the art of gilding. So she increased also the skilled workforce in town, and you can see how tall and large they are, and they'll be at the top of that sculpture. Next slide. You want me to keep going, Campbell, or Commissioner West, or do you want to talk about?
If we need to go through each for everyone's clarity,
Okay.
we can, but if we don't, then it's all been submitted.
Okay, yeah, this has been approved by PAC. This is just where in our contract there is a provision for an increase in material and labor cost. This is the detail. We have a moment in our payment process where artists can submit increase in labor costs as compared to the original estimate. The other thing to remember about public art is sometimes it can take years and years from the beginning to when it actually happens. And so we do have an allowance for that in our contract process. This is the kind of detailed costs. We went carefully through everything with the artist, and then presented to PAC. These slides are wild. You can keep going. Okay.
Thank you, Jessica. I think this is another example of a multi-year project going on for several years and that we've had to adjust. So again, it's the flexibility. And again, I'd like to just thank Amber Lilly, the artist, because looking at my notes, we've got 100% labor exclusively from Tennessee, 28 vendors, 24 were directly in the Nashville area. And then to be able to build skill set within the city. And as we all know, it is getting harder and harder to live in Nashville. So it's wonderful to see these projects going to fund, and it's kind of the trickle down effect. And I'm excited to see this come together. This increase we all discussed, and for me personally, I'm having the same situation with other projects, and so this increase was certainly valid. Thank you all. And thank you to the public arts staff. Outside of these three projects, there is so much going on. I mean, last week, I believe Attilio was at the fairgrounds installing there, and we just have so much going on. So I just wanted to thank all the public arts staff for all the hard work you guys are continuing to do. And as of course, Lending Library is getting off the ground, so we approved that last month, and very exciting stuff. So thank you all personally to the staff.
Commissioner West, if you can make the motion.
If I can see. Public Art Committee recommends approval to increase the artist budget for Amber Lilly's Celestial Falls project at the Donaldson Library by $76,845.48 to account for increased material and labor cost. Make a motion to approve. Need a second?
Are you increasing it by 76,000 or increasing it to 76,000?
Motion to approve to increase the artist budget for Amber Lilly's Celestial Falls project at Donaldson Library by $76,845.48 to account for increased material and labor cost.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion on that? Are you ready for the vote? All those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner West.
Thank you.
So now we will move to Commissioner Jester with the Grants and Funding Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Love. We opened our meeting yesterday with an apology to those who took the time out of their day and made it all the way down to the location where we're going to have that meeting to have it canceled and have to reschedule their day on Wednesday. And we also opened the meeting by acknowledging that Nashville wouldn't run without sound guys, or sound men and women, and so we wanted to say thank you to them because they set everything up and then turned right back around and tore it down. So thanks to you guys as well. We addressed payments to artists and talked a little bit about making sure that as an art community, we look out for each other and make sure that everybody has received the notice, since there's been some, communication around, I guess, the paper letters that are going out, the snail mail that's going out. So just making sure that we look out for everyone to make sure they receive their notice. We addressed the current status of the mural artists and acknowledged that while I believe, unfortunately, there is no payment for them at the moment, that there's still more work to be done there, and that they are included in the MHRC complaint, and so they are part of the conciliation process, but I wanted to acknowledge that at the moment, they're not on the payment list. We moved from that into talking about delaying the grant funding cycle. And we didn't put a specific timeline on it because we do think it should be brief, but it would give us an ability potentially, as we discussed, to clean up everything that's going on now, to finish the process audit that's in the works, and to finish paying artists that we're paying right now. The committee was open to discussion about the idea, but wanted to make sure that we take into account the harm that it might cause the community. And so we've asked for public comment on that and emails on that. I have received a couple of those. I want to acknowledge those. I have not had a chance to read them thoroughly and to respond to them since yesterday, but I promise that I will, and I feel confident that any other commissioners who received that kind of correspondence will as well. We talked about some options for Thrive. And we read through, or I read through, the enabling ordinance, Metro Code, and Metro bylaws, and just pointed out where right now we're not following those. We did talk about two possible options, but acknowledged that they are two possible options of many. There was talk about whether or not we might be able to it might be an easier lift to amend Metro Code, and we acknowledge that those conversations need to be had as well. And there was talk about wanting to make sure that we're not just making decisions to acquiesce to Metro Finance and Metro Legal, and I think it's important that we hold our autonomy and power in those decisions as well. So we did acknowledge that there are many, potentially some positive and some negative ramifications that could arise from any one of these decisions that we choose. And with those conversations, that wrapped up our meeting. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Commissioner Jester. And I was at that meeting yesterday, and just want the public to know that no decisions were made. It was more brainstorming and just getting information out there just so we can talk it out. And so no decisions have been made about Thrive or the grants process. And I just want to make sure that that is very clear, that no decisions, no vote was made. It was just putting things out there so we can talk through it. I truly believe that the work happens in committee. And so the committee is going to be working very hard on figuring out the best way to move forward. And then we'll bring that back to the commission as a whole. And so I just wanted to make sure that was very clear, that no decisions were made. Are there any other discussions on the Grants and Funding Committee? Yes.
You can go ahead.
I watched the meeting and I was appreciative of the fact that you asked for feedback from the community in terms of thinking about the consequences or the ramifications for delays or different things. I also wanted to encourage, in terms of talking about Thrive, to perhaps gather feedback or ask for feedback on actually the structure of the program, not just how it is kind of coded or is or isn't in alignment with code, but rather like what it was like in the beginning. So some history around that. For example, there's been talk about the fact that it's a different size, that there are more Thrive recipients, but it also was a rolling program, right? So there wasn't a deadline, it was rolling. And so I know we do mentorship at Metro Arts with people who are applying, but there's a deadline, right? And it used to be kind of rolling. And so that's just a different shape for a program, I guess. So I'd like to encourage people or anyone with understanding of that kind of perspective. I think that would be helpful for the conversation.
I agree, and I believe we should have those conversations. We'll bring those to the next grants and funding meeting. There were two things that I didn't mention that I should have. We also had Miss Amanda Deaton-Moyer from Delegated Procurement come and talk about the delegated procurement process and some of the details of that. And also, I just wanted to acknowledge that we talked about this yesterday, but in light of Miss Ashley Batchelder's comments in front of Metro Council and someone who mentioned today, but we are acknowledging the fact that any changes that may be made are going to be done in concert with Metro Council and making sure that we have a wide support behind whatever we do.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Jester. Are there any other questions on the Grants and Funding Committee? Oh, yes, Commissioner West.
Thank you. I watched the meeting yesterday, and thank you, Commissioner Jester, for leading that. I guess I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment. It's more about timeline. Going through City Council, I'm thinking this would need, this would need to go through first reading, second reading for the grant rubric to be approved by council. Does that include a first reading, a second reading, and then a third? So we have to take that into consideration for timeline for the grants. So I just want to put this out there that needs to be baked in because that can take several weeks. And then with the summer coming, I just want to put that kind of forward as we work on timeline, that's something that has apparently been in our bylaws since 2001 and has never been done before since then. And so just putting that into play of how long that will take so we're all on the same page of process, I guess.
So if you all are filing legislation to update those rules and regulations, I'll check the original legislation, but oftentimes when you're amending something, the enabling legislation will say something along the lines of, this can be amended by resolution with 21 votes or something like that. I haven't pulled the actual legislation, but I can do that and I'll let everyone know.
Thank you, Macy. That's perfect. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, we will move on to Commissioner Watts with budget and oversight. And if you remember at our last meeting, we did delegate the task of reaching out and speaking with HR, legal, and finance to Commissioner Watts. And so we look forward to your updates. Thank you.
Now that I'm a full-time worker again, I have met with legal and finance on several different occasions. As recently as this morning, and HR was included in those meetings. We've talked about budget and other issues. One of the issues was payment of artists. That was my first meeting. We sort of moved through that, and we've gotten some resolution to that in that artist. And the letter that came out, I guess, at our last meeting was a result of some of those conversations, but they've been ongoing, either with Director Dietz or Director Dietz staff. Amanda was on the call this morning. We're looking at a number of issues, including budget submission, which I found out about, and I was in a budget meeting, I believe it was Monday, with staff. And the staff was Christina and Sydney. They did an excellent job of making a presentation about a budget that they had limited knowledge about, but they did do a lot of homework and came in fully knowledgeable and was able to present. So I just wanted to share that with the staff and thank them personally. It also raises some other issues. The budget was submitted somewhere in February, which means that Director Dietz submitted the budget. There are some numbers I want to share with you. I'm just sharing information. I'm not asking for anything at this point unless someone wants to do something, but I do need to share that with you. In terms of the fiscal year budget for the current year that we're in, it is $5,461,700. That's the current budget. The total budget being requested for fiscal year '25 is $13,653,400. And the note I have is probably a little less after clarification at OMB. If you will note, doesn't take too much math, the budget is more than twice what we're currently operating under. The other information I need to share with you is this is a flat budget year based on the discussion at the budget meeting. And I let you know that because there will be some issues that we will need to look at and adjust, and staff will need to do some work between now and then. In addition to that, I've received the budget, and you have a copy of this just for your information. It is from Councilmember Porterfield, and it is the questionnaire for council with regard to budget. And it was sent to me and Christina this morning, but that will need to be turned in by May the 8th, 2024, for what then will be a May 23 scheduled meeting with council about the budget. I will stop here. Any questions about budget? Because I have a lot of details that I don't know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yes.
When you're speaking about this fiscal year, you're speaking about fiscal year 25.
No, this is fiscal year
24.
24.
So we're looking at $5,641,000.
For this year, that budget will.
I just want to be real clear on which budget.
That budget ends June 30th.
June 30th, yeah.
Yes. The fiscal year 25 budget is the $13 million budget. And that's the request currently moving through the process. It was submitted in February.
And submitted by?
Executive Director Singh, because he was still here. I don't have let me see if I have a date, because I wrote dates down today, but I wrote them in two places. Because I asked the question, when did you get the budget? And they indicated Director Singh submitted that budget in February, but they did not give me a specific date. But it was before he went out on FMLA, I can tell you that, so, okay.
So that budget number is made up, I would assume, of every application we've received for Thrive operating along with all the agency cost.
I can't answer it because if that's the case, we'll both be assuming.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like if they gave you any background about where that number came from, or?
They did not, and the more I delve into it, the more I know that there's much, much more to be looked at it. However, notwithstanding all of that and what the answers may be, this is a flat budget year coming up, and at some point, I've been told a couple of times that we can't expect any more than we currently have at best. So.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you have any information, Commissioner Watt? And I'm just not familiar with the budgeting process, and I'm trying to learn, but is it common to ask, is this common to ask for a lot more than you have received in previous years? Or usually is it more in alignment? Or I guess what I'm asking is, do we know anything about the history of the amounts that have been requested?
The answers are, it's not unusual depending on where you are and what you know about the situation moving forward. That's the first thing about budget requests. The second piece is no in flat budget year. So, and I don't know when this became flat or anything else. Having done budgets in the government for more than 30 years, I've started out asking for A through L, and I've ended up at a minus A. And that's just to give you some semblance. So I don't know, because I'm not in the budget process in terms of all of the detail. The letter came out, I believe, to all directors in January. And notice was started, I believe, sometime in the fall is what I understand, which is not unusual because it usually starts anywhere from 90 to 180 days before the budget process actually kicks off with respect to budget submissions and other things. So, and I just know that from having done those. So, if that's helpful.
Yes, and I'll say that listening to comments, it sounds like we really want to know if we are not approved for this 13 million, what will not get funded? What will we not be able to do? And I don't know if you can answer that, but I think that's kind of where we are. What will not get funded?
What will not get funded is some of the new requests, because there are new requests in this 13 million. And I mentioned to Chris the other day, just in passing, that we probably will need an inventory of some sort on that. But a lot of this also needs to be looked at in terms of the council's budget questionnaire, because it asks questions, the same questions you're raising, which says what can be funded, what wasn't funded, is this a new request? All of that's in those questions, so it gives us the opportunity to look at that, but we are on a short time frame.
That's where my questions come in relative to the time frame of when we need to write this written response, which is in about 3 weeks. And so in the absence of an acting executive director and the lack of knowledge relative to what makes up this 13 million, is there, or have there been conversations with Metro HR around when we'll be able to at least access the information that should be backing up what these numbers are? So is there an assumption that there are notes around what these budget numbers mean? And if there are notes that exist, how then do we access them quickly in order to be able to think about what this number looks like? Because several of the questions that have already been asked have already popped into my head as well. Do we normally ask for a $13 million budget and end up with a $5 million budget? So this is what generally happens, notwithstanding what you said about what you know about budgets, because everybody's budget works that way. But is there an expectation that we'll at least have access to some of the data around what makes this up so that these questions can be asked?
Some of the data was during the meeting, and I requested and was sent some information. I believe, Chris, did you get that as well? Some of the background information, the list, because they had a slideshow, which did. Okay, it was emailed to all of us, so we have at least that. Why it went to more than twice is another issue of what, and I'm not sure the background detail is available, but maybe Chris can speak to that pretty quickly if you need an answer, because I think that's something that we're going to have to work on pretty quickly.
Oh, right. I've been told I love the microphone, but I really don't. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to say that out of the $13.6 million ask, 10.6 of that is solely for operating and Thrive.
All right, say that one more time.
So out of the $13 million ask, about 10.6 is solely for operating and Thrive. And I can also provide a breakdown of what those asks are and which programs they're supporting. Some of the programs are already ongoing existing programs, like Restorative Arts and Equity has a program, like the Community Artists Leaders of Nashville. Huge program, amazing program, but there's also new programs that also are trying to be launched as well. So I can definitely give you guys the breakdown of that.
I'm sure someone wants that, but what you just gave me what I was looking for. Sure. That 10 million is Thrive and operating.
Yeah, and this was also mentioned in the February, the first initial budget and oversight meeting as well too, where we broke down that we had 109 Thrive applications and 201 operating applications, and it added up to about 10.6.
What I will say is that some of that was overclouded by a whole lot of other stuff. Let me just frame the picture, because I remember that, but I don't know that we got a lot of detail or followed up on that. I think that really is the issue, because we were following up on other things as a body.
And that's understandable. We do get a lot of information, and my memory's not the greatest, so I won't speak for anybody else. So thank you, Chris, because I've spoken to Chris a bunch of times. Like, Chris, what did you say 2 weeks ago, yesterday? So thank you for that. And this, for me, is a question around how we operate relative to grants. Every grant that we write at Salama is never a guarantee until it's guaranteed. And so it would seem we have a practice of every grant, and take my words, not to mean every, but the majority of the grants that we receive, we then tend to fund completely. And is it then an expectation every year that I would get the same amount of money every year? Because when we write grants, we don't typically, we, Salama, don't typically expect that we automatically receive the grant and that we automatically receive what it is that we ask for. For every grant that we receive, there's some difference, or we just don't even get the grant. And so I just want to understand what our practice is, because it feels like and sounds like, as I keep talking about it and hearing about it and engaging with people, that folks really do have an expectation that I write a grant and I'm going to get that grant. And I don't even need to think about another possibility. I've never been in that situation, even when I was writing to Metro Arts. And so please disabuse me of the notion, because I hope that I'm wrong, especially when we give people ideas that this money is going to come in X month, and we don't even know what the money is until July. So I hope that I'm mistaken. That has happened a whole lot. I hope that I am mistaken.
Let me, as the oversight, I think I had this conversation, or at least a statement at the last Oversight and Budget Committee meeting, which went to the effect of all committees that are making decisions relative to things, if you have process, we need to look at it and deal with process as it moves forward, whatever that is. In the budget process, I think we also have to look at what we can or cannot afford, and whether or not that's been a notion or an idea that's out there. I think I'm going to defer to Grants Committee, because that's where that really belongs, not necessarily an oversight completely, but an oversight as a part of the ongoing process moving forward. So,
and while I'm looking at you,
I know.
I'm really not talking to budget and oversight. I'm really talking to all of us in the room, because Tim came on same time I did. Do you know Tim? And that's a rhetorical question. I'm not really asking that question either. I'm thinking probably not.
I would say that in the great number of conversations that I've had with artists and art organizations across the city, that no one really had that expectation, but they did feel like that, I don't want to use the word promise, but like that was sort of the direction that Metro Arts was trying to head. That's
Thanks.
just from conversations with artists around the community.
Commissioner Wade, I think that you and I are sharing the same brain a little bit. I also would write to Metro Arts, and as a grant writer and a grant consultant now, I don't know anyone that would really think that you ask and it's a guaranteed. I know through my history writing grants to Metro Arts years ago, it was always, as you're building your budget as an ED or a development director, it's an unknown. And so that is not a baked in like an earned income. But I would like to see how this is broken down, because at the 10.6, it just feels, and just doing quick math, it looks like that does represent all applications submitted, both Thrive and grants. And I brought this up last year, that I felt like we were setting up, especially individual artists, for unrealistic expectations if the council did not fund. At last year, I believe the request went in at like 10.1 or something like that. And last year it was discussed that this year would be flat. And going in with that huge ask, it's not that I've advocated for the arts increase in the city for 22 2 years. I just want us all to be transparent and to be able to talk with everyone about what that actually looks like, and then who does get funded. I mean, I still have questions about who made the decision about pulling the murals out. I have questions about who decided to pay 50% and then 50% on the grants. So I think all this needs to be really transparent and know that that number might represent the full application pot, but how do we fund and who are we deciding? So I want us just to kind of keep that all on the forefront.
Commissioner Jester.
In Daniel's defense, I would say that you don't ask for what you don't get, and Mayor O'Connell did promise 1%, and asking for a big number is better than asking for a small number. So while I agree with everything everybody's said, I just wanted to say that, you know, we are looking for 1% of Metro's budget at some point when we're worthy of distributing it, so.
I'd like to echo that. Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. 1% would fund everything, and 1% is a very, I think, doable number, but thank you for saying that.
Commissioner Watts, thank you for.
I'm not finished yet.
Oh, no, I was going to say thank you for what you've done on that. I was going to say the questions that we have, we're not going to get those answered today. And so I was going to go back to you to finish what you had, because we won't have those answers today.
Yeah, we do have the issues of May the 8th, the council budget questionnaire. We do have the issue of the fiscal 25 budget. It's not an oversight job itself, but we do have the grants making process, which needs to be finalized and put in some kind of order. I think we have other things that are out there, and some of this is oversight because we've got to see a process that is transparent, that makes sense, and that's doable, given the resources that we may or may not have. And I'm not sure what that looks like moving forward. In addition to budget, I also talked about human resources issues around bylaws, because we looked at those to see what we could or could not do. And one of the things we probably cannot do is get into civil service kind of issues with staff, because those were done that we are in fact responsible for employing, disciplining, and taking any other action we need to with respect to the executive director. We also have the authority, if necessary, to put into place an interim, given if all of the criteria is there, and HR would assist us with that, whatever that means. So I asked those questions as well, because we had a bylaw change wanting to do something. And so I asked the question of HR, well, do we want a personnel committee? They said, only if you need one. In other words, it's not something that you want to do, or maybe it's a function of executive committee, as you need to deal with the one at-will staff member that the commission has, and that is the executive director. So I looked into all of those, because at some point what I felt was that we probably didn't know enough about what Metro was doing, since many of us are very new, and how we needed to move forward and with whom. So we have resources in human resources and other places. My job was not to, and I told them, to deal with any of the other external issues that we have, but to deal with just process management and to look at those. And during the meeting, we said every committee needs to have process for whatever it is they're doing. Public Arts probably has the more detailed process that I've seen, and that's good. So something exists. Thrive, the rubrics and other things have been questioned as to what are they doing, how are they doing, what do they need revisions, what needs to happen. And then the other issue is, how do we respond to all of our stakeholders, meaning the outside arts community that we are funding. And that is a bigger issue, and we hear it with public comment, but that is the issues. With that, Madam Chair, I am finished. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to go back just a little bit to HR. So I think my understanding is I knew what authority we had, but would something hinder us from acting on our authority, if that makes sense? So we have the ability to figure out what to do with FMLA or interim. Like, we have that authority to do that. And so what do we do from there, from now on? Because it's still lingering. Like, what do we do? Does your committee have a recommendation on how to handle that, what we do, so we can vote on something like that?
I asked the question this morning, what can we do? And what they said was that you or I could come back to them and talk specifically with the questions you just raised to find out what's hindering or not and to move that forward.
Do we need a motion for you two to go and do that?
It's not the two of us, it's either or, so that we don't run afoul of open meetings. In
No,
other
we
words,
don't need a motion for that because we already
we can
asked Commissioner Watts to be that person for us. I guess we're just still at the same place we were in last month when we asked you to ask those questions. And that's no fault of yours. But I have been copied on those emails and it's the same answer every single time. And at what point as a commission do we just do what we already have the authority to do, whatever that is? And so that's kind of what I'm asking, because if we have the authority to do an interim, disciplinary, whatever that is, then should we just do that? Because we can't just keep the staff waiting in limbo. We can't keep our executive director in limbo. Like, we can't, those things just cannot continue. And so I not that I think we need to do something today, but I don't feel comfortable having another meeting and nothing has been done. And that just doesn't sit well with me. And I could be alone in that, but it just does not sit well with me. And
it doesn't sit well with me, but I don't have a real answer of what that means and what the barriers are. I think I know just based on my history, but I've not gotten a direct answer about some of the issues that are out there. Some of them may create more problems than it's worth. There's a couple of other things out there, and one has to do with appointing interim personnel, but how that is done is up to us, and that current staff could be appointed, but they would have to agree, and we might have to do some additional things in concert with them. So those are still out there, and every action has a reaction, and there are several on this front that can happen. So
I'll go to Commissioner Wade and then Commissioner Jester, because I see.
Two questions. Should there then be a conversation in executive committee that would be a closed session around HR issues? Because we can't discuss those kinds of things in this kind of meeting.
You can't have a closed meeting to discuss HR issues.
So how do then HR issues get discussed that then empowers either our chair or the chair of the oversight committee to make a recommendation to HR relative to what needs to happen next?
You can discuss the HR matters in an open meeting, though I know it's uncomfortable. The only way that you can have an executive session is to discuss pending litigation or the threat of pending litigation. The Tennessee Open Meetings Act doesn't allow you all to have closed meetings that the public cannot be at.
Thanks.
And I guess we don't need a recommendation from HR, I guess, because we have the one employee. We just have to figure out what to do, right?
That's what I'm speaking about.
Yeah,
I don't know that we would want to have that conversation about what to do right here.
Well, that's the only way we can do it. So we do, yeah.
That was the point of the question, and so that has since been illuminated, but yeah.
So if I'm hearing Metro Legal correctly, I'm hearing that this body has the authority to hire, fire, or discipline the executive director, and it has to happen in an open meeting here.
That is correct. Yes, you all have the authority to discipline, hire, fire your executive directors as you've done in the past.
Okay. Well, I have.
Let me just give you two other options I have, so you have all of them on the table here. One of them is we could hire an interim director, or we could appoint a staff on an interim basis to do some of the work necessary to keep things moving. Those are three different options, and so I need us to be clear what those look like. So
Sure. I have a few comments I'd like to make with Chair Love's approval.
Oh, okay.
Okay. First, I want to make clear that I'm speaking of my own free will. I have not been coerced or manipulated. My comments are my own, and I am just as frustrated trying to understand Metro Legal and Metro Finance as many others are in this room. I am reading these words because I believe words are incredibly important. but they are my words formed by my own thoughts, written in my own hand, and uninfluenced by anyone else, no Metro government officials, no council members, no commissioners. My words, the product of an immense amount of research, conversation, and critical thought. It is my deep hope that the intent and impact of my words today are taken in the spirit of care and conciliation I have worked hard to maintain throughout this process and since being appointed to the Arts Commission in January. Up to the very recent past, Metro Arts was headed in a new and improved direction that focused on listening to and including sizable parts of the art community in Nashville who for years have felt unrepresented and unheard. Our current executive director, Daniel Singh, is almost entirely, if not entirely, responsible for this shift, and I think it is important that he is publicly acknowledged for the incredibly good work and difficult work that he has accomplished. I have to believe the calls I hear to reinstate Daniel are calls more deeply rooted in an inherent right to continue being heard and continue being a significant part of the Nashville Metro Arts community. It is my belief, and no matter what happens moving forward, I will continue to fight to make sure Metro Arts, organizationally and individually, continues to listen to voices who were marginalized for far too long, and also to act on what we hear to ensure the path of Metro Arts continues down a path of inclusivity. Unfortunately, I believe we have reached a point where Director Singh's effectiveness as an organizational leader has diminished past a point of reconciliation. As noted in an email I sent to council members recently, I have spent an incredible amount of time since January meeting with staff, artists, and art organizations across Nashville, as well as with our executive director, and I do not believe reconciliation between Director Singh, and Metro Arts is possible. With a few exceptions, there is no trust or confidence in our current executive director to move Metro Arts forward. And the exceptions are all based on our director's good equity work. But these opinions must also take into account what might be an inability, but what I believe is far more likely an unwillingness to implement organization and communication practices necessary to functionally lead an organization. I am calling this commission to relieve Executive Director Singh of his duties, and while working closely with Metro Nashville's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Workforce Diversity Manager, appoint an interim director, and begin a national search for a permanent executive director who has significant management experience, who is willing to curate healthy relationships with staff, other government organizations, and with artists across the Nashville art scene, and who is willing to continue down the arduous path of promoting equity and diversity in the way Metro Arts administers grants. Many commissioners, including myself, over the last months have called for Director Singh to be able to have an opportunity to respond to the Luther Wright report. A question I've asked myself a great number of times over the last months is what answer could Director Singh offer that might change my mind about our ability to find reconciliation between the director and our staff? And the very difficult answer that I keep coming to is I do not believe there is an answer that could convince me reconciliation is possible. It is in a conversation I had recently, the comment was made, we are very lucky to have such an amazing staff given everything that's going on, and I agree. It is unfortunate that we find ourselves in this position. It is unfortunate that these truths need to be spoken and acted on, but we are here. So it is time to move forward while remembering the very difficult lessons we've learned here, and by committing ourselves to continue to have tough conversations and making the best decisions for the Nashville arts community and Metro Arts. So with that, I would make a motion that this commission terminate Executive Director Daniel Singh and immediately, in coordination with Metro Nashville's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and with our Workforce Diversity Manager, work to appoint an interim director who is capable of fixing problems and healing our embattled staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Jester. That was a proper motion. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I think I have a question.
We have to go to second.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Once there's a second, then you can have some discussion.
I can second, but I do have lots of questions that may not back up my second, so I don't know if that works or not. I think it just...
Are you making the second?
Sure.
All right. So It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there discussion?
Yeah, because I'm not super comfortable with that. I felt like we could have conversation around this prior to having a second or a vote. I do want to, I think we can have the conversation now about the reinstatement of Daniel Singh, Director Singh, by this commission that has been, it seems like publicly, that is the thought process. And I wanted to be cleared up on that because it's my knowledge and all the meetings I've been in is that the commission has never, ever deinstated Director Singh. He's been on FMLA leave. And we've been waiting for that to either allow him to come back on a intermittent FMLA leave or not, or if he chooses not at all, or if he has taken a different position. But I do feel strongly the staff can't continue to trudge along without direction and without an interim hired. I was part of this commission when our last executive director took FMLA, and I believe, Macy, you were maybe with us then, an interim was appointed pretty quickly internally.
Yeah.
So my main concern is about the work being done, the artists being served, and without the leadership in place, everything is at a standstill. So I'd like some clarification on, and we haven't had anything from Director Singh, I believe, that we've been asking for. And was he given the ability to respond to the report? So these are all questions I believe I kind of sent out, but I don't know how to, yeah.
So you cannot ask Director Singh to respond to the right report while he's out on FMLA leave. It's worth noting that the right report did include an interview with Director Singh, but you cannot ask him to respond to it while he is out on FMLA leave.
I might add that I labored greatly over considering whether or not administrative leave was necessary or making a motion for termination. And the reason I leaned towards termination ultimately is because even if Director Singh comes back from FMLA and he responds to us, I still believe that we have a full complement of staff who are pretty incredible. And it is my great concern, I don't think without sufficient evidence, let me say that in the positive, and I feel like I have sufficient evidence to believe this, that we would lose a lot of them. And I don't think that's okay.
Thank you. Is this a place where we can discuss the termination versus the leave? I'm not clear on what leave would do. I'm not in that world, so.
We're on, and correct me, we're on this motion, and so we are discussing this motion, and so we can vote this up or down and then have another motion for whatever is the will of the commission, but we're currently on the motion to terminate him. That's the motion, that's where the discussion should center on.
So my question, you all can direct me if this centers on the actual motion, but my interest is in, because I don't disagree with my personal belief that the relationship between leader and staff is irreparable. And so if we make decisions today, my question is around timing. Then what happens next? What happens tomorrow? How and what is a process for the selection of an interim? I haven't spoken to a staff, I haven't spoken to all staff, but I haven't spoken to a current staff person who has any interest in the interim position. And so what then are we talking about relative to how we then move forward, knowing we have something that has to go in on the 8th? And I'm unable to make a vote today to terminate without information around how then the processes then will continue in order to make sure that arts is able to do what it needs to do. But I absolutely agree that the relationship is irreparable. And that is necessary because we will potentially end up with even more disarray in the absence of, not in the absence of a leader, but if we terminate at this point today.
I would think that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would think that we would be able to have conversation about what those next steps look like in this meeting today if we were to pass this motion. I know that this has happened in the past when our previous executive director went out on FMLA. There was an interim in place rather quickly. And so I don't think that we're without precedent that we could follow if the decision is made to pass this motion. And I do think we could talk about that in this meeting today.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I haven't spoken much today. I guess I've worked at Metro Arts. I started my career here 2016. I recognize that there's a lot of changes rapidly. I left about 2 years ago, and I recognize a few staff members, but I recognize maybe one board member. Campbell, I think you were around. And I think thinking about the budget process and knowing how stressful that is for an executive director and the importance of having good leadership in that position, it is a little daunting at this time to see, okay, there's this questionnaire, we're about to go through this budget process at a time where the arts community is demanding more funding for the arts in the city. And, responding to that previous session, I know the person who stepped into that interim role was very, very experienced in Metro. They had been around for a while in different departments and had a very large knowledge base about these processes and how those things worked, which probably allowed for a more seamless transition into that, position. So I think what worries me is going in this process where we have this challenge with funding and budgeting, and while I think it's clear that there are some issues here with the executive director that, as you say, Commissioner, might not be repairable in terms of relationships. Those things happen, and I think considering the relationships is important, but the next few months is crucial for funding and budgeting. And personally, I haven't interacted with the director in this position and really much. I think I've met him a couple times out at community events, but it would be, I would like to hear from him, not because I would like him to stay or I would like him to go, but it would make me feel more comfortable making a vote in that decision. I do wonder, if we do make this vote today, what does tomorrow look like for staff? What does the next 2 weeks look like for staff? But also, to your point, I also wonder vice versa, if we don't make the vote, what does it look like too? So I know that might not be helpful, but just a few things to consider. I think the key thing is interim, and the budget for me is moving forward. Who is leading that role? Who's the person who has to get before council and advocate for the request? But yeah, I'll stop there and we can continue discussion. But
I think the answer to your question about what tomorrow looks like, whether we do or don't make this vote, is that tomorrow is probably going to look very similar either way. And one way, we experience no progress and continue to have a staff that could justifiably leave us at any moment. And the other way, we have a little bit of progress and we can potentially talk about appointing somebody from our commission to go to the the Office of Equity, and to work with them to begin the process of finding an interim executive director. So until Daniel, I need to stop saying Daniel, until Executive Director Singh is able to or chooses to, and I don't know what the motivation behind it is, but make sure that his FMLA request is such that he can come back on intermittent leave, we're rudderless, and that's not okay. So, and we received an email this morning from his attorney that said that he's going to be out for the full period of time, which, if my understanding is correctly, that's 12 weeks. And that's problematic. So I would like to hear from Director Singh too. I very much would like that. I'm not sure we have that luxury.
Commissioner Watts.
Let me weigh in, because I think we're either way we're on another tightrope, and it's disappearing under our feet as we walk it. I think this motion is a bit premature. I'd love to see us do an interim as opposed to anything else, or invest some time in the staff that we all agree is quite good to do some limited kinds of things to keep us focused, and then look at a long-term solution moving forward. Long-term solutions can be anything. And you're right, maybe it's irreparable, maybe it's not. I've mediated stuff that people never thought would happen. So at some point, I don't know what it is, because I don't know what Director Singh would say to us one way or the other, and whether it would sway me one way or the other. I do know that we need due process. I do know that we need to make some decisions, and one is a real critical, immediate decision about budget, whichever way we go today, and that we need to invest in staff. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with your motion, but I'm going to say it anyway, that we need to invest in the staff we currently have and give them the necessary backing to do whatever they need to do. I've been in meetings with them. I'm willing to go with them if that's what you all want to do. I'm not willing to do the work, but I'm willing to go to back them up from this body's perspective so that people know you all want to do that. But that's just me talking, and this is not the motion I'm speaking to. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Understanding that my personal belief is that we are most likely delaying the inevitable.
That doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm willing to amend my motion to put Director Singh on executive, excuse me, I'm getting my mix all speeched up here. I'm willing to amend my motion to put Director Singh on administrative leave and begin a search for an interim director, so we are not rudderless through this next crucial time for Metro Arts. And I guess I'd add that he should be on administrative leave until he can come back and respond to us and speak with us.
Macy, I always forget how this works. When someone amends their motion, does the person who seconded have to, how does that work?
It would be ideal if Campbell could second the amended motion.
I want to first rescind my second. Is that possible on the first? Because I've not received this email from Director Singh's attorney. I feel a little uninformed. I didn't get that.
So,
does that work? I'm sorry,
Maybe we should
procedurally, I
just-
usually know procedure pretty well, but this is a little hazy for me.
perhaps we should just vote on the original motion and then make another motion. So we'll need a second.
A second on the amended motion?
If you're rescinding your original second, then we don't have a second. So we would need a second.
And the motion would fail for a second, right? As is common in the Tennessee House of Legislature.
And then I don't want to mix anything up, but when he made the motion to amend his motion, does that have to, so there was no second on that? Okay, so you're just, okay. Procedurally, I'm a procedure girl. Procedurally, I just want to make sure there's no motion on the floor right now.
There's no motion with a second on the floor right now.
Okay. And while you all are discussing that, I will say that the email came this morning from his attorney to Metro Legal, and I forwarded it to the commissioner. So it would have come from me, not his attorney. Okay. Did everyone get that? Okay. Okay. So whenever I sent that, that's when I got it. So I got it maybe an hour before this meeting, and so, okay. All right, is there any other discussion, or anyone wants to make any other motions or discussions surrounding this? Commissioner Watts.
Let me try this. I think we need to extend authority to Christina Afote to deal with the budget issues in conjunction with budget and oversight so that we can move this process forward. And I know Sydney was also her, where's Sydney? was her compadre. I know you're looking funny. I'm just trying to get some stuff on the floor so we can move forward. No, I'm talking to Christina. But it gives her the authority to act. And she has been acting, by the way. So I want this body to put some authority behind that so that she can act on making sure that the budget process and the issues that we have to deal with are dealt with. That's really what I'm trying to do here. So, is that clear?
Can you restate that, just so we can just make sure?
I move that we give Chris the authority to act on behalf of the Arts Commission as it relates to the budget process moving forward over the next 6 weeks or so. And she's coming to the mic.
So before we get into discussion, is there a second on that?
Gotta have a second for it to have any value.
I'll second that, just so we can have it before us. Okay, Chris.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that I can politely decline for the state of my mental health, in choosing me to back out of that opportunity to stand up and take on more responsibilities at the time.
This is only for the budget. I didn't ask you to become the interim director.
I don't know what you're actually asking specifically, to be honest.
Basically, you've been doing the work in terms of the contact with finance at this point. So we're looking for you to help do that, the budget questionnaire and the other things, and to make presentations. And again, the Budget and Oversight Committee can meet and assist you with some of that to make sure that that happens. But it really is something you've done already, so I'm not asking you to do any more than that.
Correct, okay. I understand that. That was already going to be done anyway.
Well, I want to give you more backing and support to do that. That's really what this motion is about, so that you're not wandering out there and people say, well, how did you get that? The Arts Commission delegated this responsibility to me, is what I want you to be able to say.
Understand.
Okay.
Is there any discussion, Commissioner Lefowitz? No. All right.
I just want to clarify, so we're kind of allowing Chris to lead this budgeting process as we kind of figure out what's going to happen in the next weeks, coming weeks. Is that correct? Okay.
That's my intent, yes.
Okay. No, I like that, because I think, this budget, as we talk about all the funding and resources, it's really important, even though it is a flat budget year, that someone's able to understand that and speak to that. So I appreciate that motion. I'm much more comfortable with that. So.
I see a lot of green lights. Commissioner Jester, you have something?
I feel like we've just put Chris in a very tough position and on the spot where she had to potentially say yes to something that maybe she absolutely did not want to say yes to. And while I agree with the idea of what we're trying to accomplish, it still doesn't seem like we have what we need to move forward efficiently and well through the next few months.
This is just interim. This budget process will be over by July 1.
So I guess my question would be, how do I go about administratively amending my motion, or do we need to?
You don't have, the motion on the floor is Commissioner Watts, yeah.
I want to echo the same sentiments of Commissioner Jester. Respectfully, I don't feel that this has been discussed with Chris. It has not. And to add, this is the budget piece, as I've been part of over the years, that is actually the executive director's piece to help put it together, bring it all together, working with finance. Chris, that's normally the way that it goes. Putting all of this on Chris without a conversation beforehand, I feel like is inappropriate.
Like it or not, the budget's already been presented. It's more than the flat budget would allow. It's things that Chris had indicated she was going to do. And that, I think we just, if she's going to do that, anyway, I just wanted her to have backing, not to take this on as a permanent piece, but just to get us through this budget process, which is 60 days out to July 1. And if you all want to do this, I'll rescind the motion, but we're back where we started in terms of what are we going to do. So it's.
Can I, if I may, do we have to appoint a single individual to take on that budget, or could we give staff that's not the I guess just not the director, staff as a whole to take that on? Is that
staff as a whole? She and Sydney made presentations to the budget committee meeting on Monday. That was finance, human resources, and someone else. And then I was there because I had gotten it and was asked to attend as well from the finance side. So as a budget and oversight process. So that's really how I got there. So, but they were there, they made a presentation. However, the budget is one that was submitted by the executive director and other things. So there's a variety of things. The question is, if we need the budget done, how do we get it done? How do we make sure that the budget questionnaire is completed, which is a pretty easy process from what I gathered. But if it's not, and if there's other issues, I'm not asking anybody to take on the role of executive director or anything else. I'm looking for a very narrow interim niche to get us through the budget process. That's it. So, if Chris doesn't want to take it on, I don't have a problem with that. That's the nature of the beast. So.
It sounds very much to me like we're just putting a lot more pressure on somebody to do the job that they were already going to do.
But they're doing it without a leader in place, as you indicated in your motion. That's all I'm trying to do, is make sure that we give them just, in essence, if she was doing it before, she would have an executive director. She does not. So I just want to give her the authority to move on with good decisions and those kind of things. So I'm not sure how we do that. So let me stop.
I'm going to go to Commissioner Lepowitz and then Commissioner West.
I just want, and I don't know how this can happen, I mean, I'm open to considering how this can happen. I want someone who's a leader to walk into the office with the staff so that they do not have to continue to make decisions. And I'm understanding what Commissioner Watt is saying in terms of empowering Chris and kind of endorsing her through this budget process. The budget is not the only thing. It is the big thing, right? But it is not the only thing. So I don't want to leave today until I say that I want a solution for the staff, for a human to walk in and lead them on an interim basis. And I'm open to considering different ways how that might look, but to me that feels very crucial for budget, but also just as a sign of support for them.
Commissioner West, and then we'll hear from staff.
Just listening to everyone, it honestly just feels like we're asking Chris to take on the role of two, executive director and current finance role, in addition to everything else that Chris is working with procurement, your basic job. I feel like this would be where an interim would step in and work alongside with Chris as an executive director would if the executive director were currently in place. That's what it feels like.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for having, I know it's very uncomfortable to have this conversation in an open space like this, and yet it's the only way we can have it, so I'm very grateful that we're having it. Thank you. I should introduce myself. I'm Darren Jackson. I'm the Communications Manager for Metro Arts. I think much of the staff would welcome some decisive action on this sooner rather than later. We have been without an executive director since February 23rd, but we have been in a leadership vacuum for much longer. And continuing to operate, continuing to move the goalposts on when we can do something about this is doing harm that that everyone on the staff does a really good job of covering up as best we can most of the time. But this is, the last time we heard from our executive director was February 23rd, but the last time we experienced real leadership was well before that. So we would welcome and appreciate decisive action on this. I thank you each for being willing to have that discussion in an open forum like this. I know that the consequences are great, whichever way you decide to go here. But it is deeply consequential to us, and we're very grateful that you're having this conversation. And I certainly hope we can find some firm footing moving forward. And I will also second and third and fourth that Chris's plate is beyond full, and she's doing a remarkable job doing about 4 different full-time jobs right now. And I would ask that we not put anything else on her plate. If anything, I'm constantly trying to take things off. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any more discussion on the motion that's on the floor? All right, because of the nature of this, if I can get Ms. Fox to just do a roll call vote on this. Are we ready to vote?
I don't think there was a second.
I second it. Yeah, that's why we had the discussion. Okay. Commissioner Watts, can you repeat your motion for Commissioner Harden?
Turn on the mic. The motion was to have Chris really usher the budget through, give her the authority to usher the budget through in the absence of an executive director. That's the short term. Does that help you? Okay. Because and it starts through the end of June, so we're talking about another 60 days.
All right, Ms. Fox, if you can do the roll call.
Commissioner Love,
No.
Commissioner Lefkowitz,
No.
Commissioner Wade,
No.
Commissioner Harden,
No.
Commissioner Jester,
No.
Commissioner West,
No.
Commissioner Watts.
I can abstain because it's a vote against. You heard what I said?
It was a very respectful no.
I'm not into these kind of, whether it's respectful. I do these meetings all the time. I'm good with this, okay? I don't have a problem.
Ms. Fox, if you can, what was the count on that? Just for the record.
6.
All right.
Noes, 1 abstain.
All right, so the motion failed. I guess my question is, and maybe we can just go out of this session that we're in and you just hear from staff who are willing to speak to us. What is it that you need or want from us today? Do you need an interim? What do you need? And who is able and capable of serving as an interim? Is there anyone from staff that would be willing to speak so that we can make a decision? Because we have to do something.
Can I say something before
Yes.
Darren?
Ms. Fox.
Darren, still come on. I do feel like we do need an interim. Like Darren said, there is a lot on Chris's plate. And I do worry about her mental health with all that is being asked of her. I'm not going to say the staffer that I believe that could handle it, but I know that that person does not want it. They're knowledgeable, they've been here, but I don't feel like they would ever say yes. I feel like they'd say no as well. So I feel like someone else would need to come in and assist, some type of interim director. Just us being here by ourselves, there's a lot of confusion sometimes. Granted, we have worked really well together, really extremely well. I give it up to our team being without a director. We've come together and gotten things done. So I do feel that we do need someone or an interim to be here for us.
Go ahead.
I'm a little nervous. I'm sorry. Could you repeat your question?
No, I just wanted to just hear from staff. You know, what is it that you need or want from us? Do you even want an interim? Does someone from staff want to be the interim? What does that look like? You know, help us make the decision, because we want to make a decision, but we want to make sure that we hear from staff. 'Cause I don't think we've done that, and we need to do that.
Sure. When I started at Metro Arts at the end of October of last year, what I was eager for and asked for many times, and we had a 2-day staff retreat that I thought the opportunity presented itself for us to have these conversations, and that opportunity was missed. What I have asked for over and over is a leader who can be the captain of the ship, who can say, this is what we are here to do. This is how each department serves the greater need of this agency. This is how our agency fits within the ecosystem of Metro. This is how our agency fits within the ecosystem of the arts community here in Nashville. Within that, here is how each department of this agency serves the other and works in a complementary way to serve and meet the goals that are stated by the mission of this agency. We have asked for that over and over and over, and it has never come. Not in a formal onboarding, not in informal conversations, not in casual conversations with our leadership. That has never come. There was never an opportunity for us to say to one another, this is what I bring to the table. This is my unique skill set. This is why I have this job. This is what I'm fired up about arts. This is why I want to be at this agency doing this work. That opportunity, we've asked for it. It has never come. It's not a super high leadership bar to clear that we're looking for right now. We want someone who can speak with this staff, get to know us, understand what the strengths of each of these team members. We've got a rock star team that has been woefully underutilized because we've never had anything to coalesce behind. We've never had a shared vision, a shared mission, a shared agenda. That's never been offered to us. And when we've asked for it, we've been threatened with retaliation and saying that we're trying to subvert what perhaps the executive director wanted to do, but we weren't ever actually super clear on what that was. We need to know who's in charge. I've been asking since I came on, and I asked multiple times in our leadership retreat, who is the captain of this ship? The executive director was sitting next to me, and I said, I don't know who the captain is. Like, who is actually in charge? Who is visioning? Who is leading all of this? And that's not been answered. And I think what we're looking for is someone who can rise to the occasion to answer that question, because you have a staff of people who are very willing to come together and do the work, and are managing to do the work in the absence of that leadership, and have been doing that work in the absence of leadership, even when we had someone in the position. Okay. In the words of Daniel Jones, giddy up, y'all.
I just want to say that Commissioner Benedict did ask for me to say that this is not on the agenda for discussion, so maybe it would be more appropriate to move it to new business.
Thank you, but we were discussing the HR issues, and so it
kind of flowed
into
naturally.
that.
Yes, I'm just passing on the message for Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you. See any other staffers who want to say anything? Ms. Davis?
I've been told I've been pretty outspoken, but I would counter that I was only just sharing the experience that I had at the moment at the February 15th commission meeting. And something that I said then, I think it got somewhat overlooked just with the amount of things that we've been having conversations about. And I want to say very clearly that, like, my team is amazing. I'm actually trying not to get emotional right now because I'm extremely frustrated. And this has just been an experience I never thought that I would have had. Every day I leave work and I consider the idea of how can I do more with the limited amount of supplies and resources that we have, which also includes leadership. One of the things that I said in February is that I went down every single item that is in my job description, and it is almost a 4-page document where I asked very, very specific questions and sent to Director Singh exactly how we are to go about making sure that this next year moving forward, is going to move in a way that is conducive to a healthy work environment. I went to HR, said, I need my exact job description and duties. I went under every single bullet point, and I asked, do we have this process? Does it need to be updated? How would you like to see it? Would you like to see it in an SOP? And not only did I send it to him, I sent it to every single person on our staff for the sake of trying to start a conversation about what are we going to do? How is it going to look? And to this day, pre-FMLA, it has never been answered. It has never been responded to. And I was actually told the one time that I did bring it back up is that these were wants. These were wants of mine. These were aspirational, and that they would not even be looked at until April, which would have inherently been after the grant cycle if it would have continued the way that it did happen last year. I don't know in any job that I have ever been at that the job duties were not extremely clear and able to be discussed by leadership at a drop of a pen. Maybe we're going over the semantics and the specifics, but to this day, I have never had any type of training. At one point, there were multiple people who held my position. There were multiple people who had absolutely no intention of actually following through with the job. And all I have right now are codes, are the employee handbook that comes all the way up from the very top. Outside of that, nothing has been given to the people who I go to work with every single day. If I can speak personally, we are hanging on by a thread. The only thread, I think you mentioned it, the different pieces of yarn. Right now, the different pieces of yarn are the individual staff people that go to MSC and work together, and we try our best to make sense of something that honestly there's no colors. We have no colors that we're painting with here, and it is inherent that we have someone, and I do not believe it should go on the backs of the people who have already been working their behinds off with no leadership currently. No matter which way you look at it, FMLA is FMLA. He can't work right now anyways, and we don't have anyone there. It should not fall on the women in this department, should not fall on the people who had been here before he got here. It should not fall on anyone because we did not create this mess. And I'm not necessarily saying that this is our director's whole, and this is not just a him issue. This is an inherent systematic issue that has not been looked at since the beginning of time. There are so many things that have not been put into place here that are extremely inappropriate and do not call for a conducive workplace. I don't even know if I'm talking about the motion anymore at this point, but if you ask us, because realistically, nobody has come to staff outside of a few commissioners, well, at this point, most commissioners, but even then, it's been more recent than not. We've needed help for a while, and if you're asking me about my interpretation of this, is that we're struggling and we need something to happen immediately. There is no way to serve the community if we cannot even serve ourselves.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
I know that there's probably more to be discussed regarding where this conversation has gone in new business, but I did just want to, on the record, say that Chris has been shouldering much more than she has been compensated for, and I think putting anything else on her plate right now is unfair, and I think that we as a staff, including Chris, deserve the support of an interim or not interim executive director.
All right, thank you. Do you have something? Oh, no. So that's kind of what I wanted to hear, and just to get it out in the open on the record, it sounds like there is an appetite to have an interim, but the interim does not need to be current staff. And so that's kind of what I'm hearing. And so we can't just pull an interim out of the sky right now. And so what I would, if we can move on from Budget Oversight Committee and figure out a time to get together before the next commission meeting and discuss who that can be And I'll put this back on you, Commissioner Watts, to reach out to HR again, because that invitation was already there from Ms. Hall, is to figure out how we get an interim in and who that interim could be right now until we figure out this whole FMLA thing and how that works out. And so I want to just put that back in your court to follow up with those questions, because now we know kind of where we need to go. And I want this to be try to be answered before our next meeting, because the longer we wait, the longer we wait. And so I think that's pretty fair. Are there any questions?
Do we need to move this conversation to new business and then keep talking about it in order, is that the sense I'm getting?
No, I was just making a directive to Commissioner Watts. But did you have something else you wanted to say?
Oh, well, I'm just concerned that we're continuing to make half measures. We can figure out how we go get an interim director after we've made the decision to do it. We don't have to hold off on the decision to do it. And I'm willing to amend my motion and amend it in any part of the agenda that makes it appropriate.
Well, you don't have a motion. Do you want to make a motion?
If this is the appropriate time to do it, but I also think it sounds like we're in the wrong part of the agenda to do it.
No, we're fine. But do you have a motion that you would like to make?
So I would move that we put Director Singh on leave, administrative leave, and immediately begin a search for an interim director until such time that Director Singh can come back from FMLA and we can hear from him.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right. Is there any discussion?
I am concerned this motion needs to be in the new business section of the agenda, though. Is that an undue concern? Can we get legal advice on that, please?
I think this conversation has rolled naturally from the Budget and HR Oversight Committee meeting discussion. I think it's appropriate here. I think it's appropriate in new business.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other discussion on your motion?
I do not.
Okay. Is there any discussion on?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up. I know that I overheard that in going through that process, there needs to be a hearing, and I'm kind of looking towards legal to just clarify what that means.
You all can make a motion to terminate, discipline, hire your director, just as you've done for the past several directors.
Okay, so there doesn't have to be a hearing in that.
He is not like a civil service employee. There's no sort of civil service hearing or.
Okay, I'm just trying to educate myself.
Sorry, I'm just not familiar with the referenced hearing.
Okay.
I have a question. Or
yes, go ahead.
A couple of questions. Do we need to schedule a special call meeting sooner rather than later, which then puts, not pressure, but nudging on HR or whomever Commissioner Watts is going to have to speak with in order for us to get definitive information around what that selection of an interim looks like? Because I feel like we need to go ahead and schedule this special called meeting so that we can finalize whatever we end up doing with Daniel after the administrative leave motion, so that it does not continue to linger. So if we believe that we can get an interim director through HR by the end of next week, and I'm just saying that the hope would be that it would be sooner rather than later, but I haven't noticed the cogs of Metro operating that quickly. And so I would like there to be some urgency around, we need to make a decision by X. So we need this information from HR, et cetera, prior to that, so that we can not be here again saying and doing the exact same things.
So yes, so I asked for that before I asked Commissioner Watts to meet with HR, that we needed a special call meeting before our main meeting because it needed to be handled. So yes, we don't have a date for that, but that is what I asked for.
I think I'm asking, can we go ahead and select that date within 7 days? I'm asking that we ask for that meeting within 7 days.
Yes, we could do that after we dispose of this motion.
And I guess if it is within 7 days, that seems quick. If it looks like it might take longer to find or appoint an interim director, is it possible that commissioner could be, I mean, I know that the commissioners have supported staff, but do they need a point person or, anything, I guess, to provide whatever reassurance or leadership would be helpful, and if the cogs are going to turn slowly. So I just raised that.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I do think I need to make an amendment that it be administrative leave with pay, because we could make it administrative with leave without pay as well, but
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? And Ms. Fox, I would like for you to do the roll call again because of the nature of it.
Commissioner Love, when you get a chance, could you resend the email that you sent out this morning? I did not get it. So it's my understanding that that email said 12 weeks at least to fill out the FMLA for Director Singh.
I don't think that, no,
Okay.
the email,
Okay.
no, it did not specify a number of weeks.
Okay.
I think his term was, the words he used was full term potentially. I mean, he did not specify weeks.
God, I just wanted to timeline in my mind. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Love,
Yes.
Lefkowitz? Yes. Wade?
Yes.
Harden?
Aye. Yes, sorry.
Jester?
Yes.
Watts? Yes. West?
Yes.
Unanimous?
All right, thank you. The motion carries. All right, if Ms. Fox, if you could look at a time in the next week or two to see what's a good day for us and get back to us, and we will move on to the CARE Committee. We do have a new chair of the CARE Committee, and I do want to thank Commissioner Harden for agreeing to step in and serve as chair. And so do you have any updates for us right now, or you will just wait until you are able to have a full meeting?
Yes, so I'll be meeting with staff just tomorrow, briefly to kind of catch up on CARE, but I am a little excited to kind of get working. I think hearing a lot of the conversations today reminds me of why we started CARE, and I think it could be a big tool in the months forward of rebuilding trust. I think it was all about transparency and accountability. It's probably the most community integrated committee we have. So I hope it can be a real tool moving forward. Just example, looking at some of our processes alongside community members, looking at guidelines, public art guidelines, grants guidelines. Those are the type of things I recall from CARE. And it sounds like that's a big thing that we're going to be doing in the next few months. So I'm honored to be able to share that. And in reality, it's a community committee. So I'm excited to hear from community members and staff members and artists alike. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And now we'll move on to communications, and I guess was there any specific communication updates that you had, or did?
Listen, I've got some good news. Weird time for it.
Okay, one of the things that I was most excited about when I started at Metro Arts very nearly 6 months ago was getting to tell the stories of artists and the stories of the public art collection and the stories of the people who are bringing public art to this city. And so the update is that we have some very exciting projects in the works right now that we're piloting. We wanted to get creative about how do we talk about these incredible works of public art that have been added to the collection, and how do we tell those stories in a way that's that is professionally packaged and engaging and benefits the agency, benefits the artist, benefits the city. And we have found a way to do that across departments within Metro and also across agencies at Metro. So if you'll go to the next slide. We are piloting a project right now where we're creating these promotional media packages for the current installations and dedications that are happening in the public art department. This is kind of what we're trying it out with. And what you have seen the ITS and Metro Nashville Network team at all of our committee meetings and commission meetings and various events around town. What you may not know about them is that they are also artists in their own right. And we have gotten to tap into the creative horsepower of the Metro Nashville Network team and the ITS team. We're doing on-camera artist interviews. We've got Tim Jarvis and Aaron Cowley helping me with videography on site on some of these locations. We've got John Ferguson piloting a drone around our new 32-foot tall sculpture going in at the fairgrounds, even piloting a drone up in the rafters at the new Donaldson Library to get cool and exciting footage of the remarkable sculpture going in there. So we are packaging these. These will benefit the artists. They will have professional portfolio assets to speak to the quality of their work. We will have promotional and archival materials at the agency for these projects. And because all of this is being done within the ecosystem of Metro, it comes at no additional cost burden to the agency or the artists, and it's a big win for everybody. So you can go one more. There's one more slide. That's John Ferguson over there underneath a coat tent, flying a drone in the sun and the wind. And Blessing Hancock is the artist responsible for Loqui at the fairgrounds, which is going to be dedicated in the coming weeks. And we just wanted to share this with you all because there is so much going on in this incredibly unique and challenging moment for our agency. And actually a lot of what's going on is very good. And the level of professionalism and expertise and hard work, particularly shout out to our public art team, is astounding. They are on the field and it's at installations every single day and handling projects the scale of which is mind-blowing to me. And I also wanted to just shout out the M&N ITS team and thank them for their creativity and artistry and helping out with these projects. It's been a really exciting collaboration.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
When asked, why would I join this commission? This is why. And we need to get back to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Darren, thank you so much. When you told me about this last week, I was so excited. And knowing how much this cost artists individually, you know, if you were just to go out and do this, we are really reinvesting in the interdepartmental and the IT, the whole thing. So thank you. I've been excited about it since you told me.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And it's because of the support of, this group of people and the commission and all the things. So thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll go to some chair updates. I'll say decisions that we make here are not easy. Because no matter what decision is made, it impacts someone personally. And so I don't want it to go that, we make decisions lightly. And so we hear you. We appreciate when the public speaks at our meetings. We appreciate when we get the emails. We hear you. We see you. The issues that are going on now did not happen overnight. So that means they can't change overnight. And so if you can just give us grace as we try to deal with everything that we're dealing with. We hear all sides and we want to make sure that we're doing what's best for everyone so that we can continue to serve our artists. One thing I do want to commit to doing, because we all are new in the chair roles and all the roles, and we do not have, a director right now. And so I do want to, for me, do a better job with noticing and getting agendas together, making sure that all committee chairs understand, who is responsible for sending, when they're sending it, who's putting the agenda together, just because we're all new to this and we're learning together, and we want to make sure that we are transparent, and so we don't have situations like what happened this week. And sometimes those things happen. That's life, and we adapt and we learn and we move on. And I just wanted to say that, and I wanted to say that I appreciate everyone here, because you could have said no and you said yes, and you're still here, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for being here. I thank the committee, all the committees. I thank the community for always being here and showing up. And so I just wanted to say thank you. And so that's all I have right now. And do we have any new or old business that we need to discuss? Oh, yes. Thank you, girl. Yes, we did have some new appointments, and I mentioned this a little bit when I mentioned the CARE committee, but just for the record, we do have Commissioner Watts serving as the chair of the Budget and Oversight Committee. Commissioner Lefowitz was the chair, but she will remain on the committee, and so we thank her for continuing to serve. Again, Commissioner Harding will serve as our CARE committee chair. And then Commissioner Duster will be the Grants and Funding Committee chair, and I was the previous chair, but I will remain on the committee, and we do need to have one more person on that committee. And so I don't know who that's going to be right now, so stay tuned. But we will have another person, and so say yes when you're asked. I'll just say that. Commissioner Duster.
I do have one item for new business. I would like to make a motion that each of the chairs of committees be on the executive committee.
The makeup of the executive committee is in the bylaws, so that would require a change to the bylaws.
So Macy, go ahead again, but while she's looking and reading that, it's the officers, and then there's an appointed person from the chair. So that's in our bylaws. That's not
So you're the appointed
something.
person.
Yes, Campbell is the appointed person. And so Macy, if you can just read what that is, yeah.
Yeah, let me pull that up, but I know that the bylaws make up the executive committee. I think Tess has it.
The executive committee shall be composed of all officers. The executive director shall be an ex officio and non-voting member of the executive committee. The previous chair of the commission shall be an ex officio voting member of the executive committee. To note, we do not have that currently. Additionally, the chair of the commission may appoint an additional commissioner as a sixth voting member of the executive committee if circumstances warrant such appointment. And Chair Love, I believe you've appointed a sixth voting member.
Yes, was that not Campbell?
It is Campbell. I rescind my motion.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah.
But you're welcome to attend.
I have one last thing about the public notice. I wanted to let you know that in the shared drive that I created, I did create a document about guidelines for posting agendas, timelines, and I referenced the relevant bylaws. This is part of my secretarial duties, I think. And so I just want to say that that is there as well, and I'll share that with all of you.
Oh, thank you for that.
Chair Love.
Yes.
So I have one in particular, a nominating committee. We do need to reestablish members for that. Obviously, you're on that. But just for the commissioners that are here, Chair Love is going to be probably contacting, or however that's done, soon enough, because July and August and September will be here before we know it. So I would rather us go ahead and get that situated so we know who's on that committee. And did you want to know the dates now?
Yes, we can go ahead and so people can get that on their calendar. What dates do we have?
So we have, because it's near the end of the month, we have Monday, the 22nd until Thursday, the 25th. And then the next week, Monday and Tuesday, the 29th through the 30th. Mistake. I'm have to X out the 29th because I will not be in the office.
Okay.
This is for the
special call executive.
Special call.
I mean, not executive, but.
Is it a commission or is it a budget oversight special called? Which one is it?
It would need to be a commission meeting. Yeah.
Commission, okay. And if you cannot pick one date, two dates, and then I'll get to the rest of the commission as well.
Okay.
And go from there.
So we need to go ahead and do that now?
If not, if you want to text me, email me, however you want to.
What are the dates you had again?
April 22nd,
Uh-huh.
23rd, 24th, 25th, and 30th.
Yeah.
Because we've had notice issues, legal tells me 5 days. That's why my memos went out 5 days before. Is that right, Macy?
So
Or is it a week?
Okay, state law says 48 hours.
Okay.
The Metro Code says the Friday before. My rule of thumb for all the boards and commissions that I advise is I like agendas to be posted a week in advance. So cutting it to next Monday seems a little bit tight. I recommend we push it past Monday.
And let me say, when I ran a commission week, was what I was told, and I just naturally do a week before.
Yeah.
And
That's
all
the safe
materials
route.
and everything goes out that date. That's just me from practice. So that's why my agenda went out. But I would say that the earliest date we could have it would probably be the 25th. So this would not be a problem since today is Thursday. Is this a one agenda item? If it is, and that's what we're going to do, we can let you know and you can get that posted right away.
Yes.
So.
25th works for me.
I can make it work.
It's 2:46 right now. By the time I get out of here, it will not be able to be posted because IT leaves by a certain time. So unless a team member can help with that.
You'll be in compliance
You'll
with the
be in
law if
compliance.
it's posted in the morning.
I just wanted to
Yes,
make
ma'am.
that a note, that it will probably officially be posted tomorrow morning.
It will have to be posted by
Yes.
tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I also sent an email to Director Hall as we were sitting here and told her I need it by next week. I'm trying to meet with her tomorrow or Monday.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have anything else under new and old business?
I just had one quick thing.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to be contacting all of the chairs for each committee just because of not having the executive director here, the agenda situation. Leah already knew, but like I'm the one that posts that. So, but for Campbell, you won't have to worry about that because Jessica is our point person with that. So that's cool. But whoever does not have a necessary point person, it'll be like me and maybe, I want to say for Commissioner Harden, it would be Josiah. For grants, it would be Sydney. And then for budget and oversight, it's just me. So.
That's because we're not a permanent committee.
Yes. So I'll probably be like really trying to stay in contact with you all and making sure that we're getting agendas completed as quickly as possible.
Thank you so much for that. If there is nothing else, I'll entertain, pardon? Oh, yes.
That's the regular time, 12 to 2 is our regular time.
All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All right, we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.